I thought I finally understood how hospitals worked. You went to the hospital, then rehab, then home. Simple. Until the hospital social worker walked into Mom's room and said, "We think an acute care hospital is the next step." I nodded, like I knew exactly what she was talking about. Welcome back to The Wicked Daughter. If you've never heard of an acute care hospital before, welcome to the club. Neither had I. And if this is your first episode, welcome. You're joining us in the middle of one family's caregiving journey after my mom was hit by a car. Don't worry, you'll be able to follow along. But when we're done, I hope you'll go back to episode 1 and hear how the story began. Last week, we celebrated survival. This week, a different kind of work begins. An acute care hospital isn't rehab. It's still a hospital. But it's for patients who aren't ready for a full-scale rehab, because they still need hospital-level medical care. Think of it as a bridge between keeping someone alive and helping them get their life back. Apparently, hospitals have more levels than Mario Brothers. Most people stay there for a month or less. When Mom was transferred, we had no idea whether she'd be there for a week, 2 weeks, or longer. At that point, I'd stopped trying to predict anything. Every time I thought I knew what came next, caregiving had other plans. If you've been with me since episode 1, you know that's become the story of this journey. The only thing we wanted to know was, can they take care of her? There were nurses around the clock, respiratory therapist, physical therapist, occupational therapist, dietitians, and doctors who rounded every day to manage her care. The facility could handle some procedures and urgent medical issues on site, but it wasn't a full-service hospital. If Mom developed another major complication, she'd be transferred back to the hospital. Until now, our goal had been survival. Now, our goal was progress. And those are two very different things. The biggest surprise? We weren't teaching Mom how to walk. She couldn't. Not yet. Her broken leg meant no weight bearing for at least another month. Realistically, probably longer. So therapy looked nothing like I'd imagined. Instead of taking steps, Mom was learning to move her fingers, lift her arms, close her hands, hold a fork, grip a toothbrush, brush her hair. Baby steps, without actually taking any. That's when I learned something else about caregiving. Recovery isn't just medicine. It's relearning things most of us do without even thinking. And one of the hardest things for Mom to relearn was holding a fork. It sounds so simple until you watch someone who can't close their hand around one. I'd place the fork in her hand, and she'd try. She'd drop it. I'd put it back in her hand, she'd squeeze a little harder. It would slip again. She just couldn't get her fingers to close around it. Day after day, breakfast, lunch, the same thing. By dinner, she was exhausted. Sometimes I'd just feed her. Not because I wanted to, because she was so frustrated and so defeated that I knew she didn't have anything left. Every time I'd pick up the fork and feed her, I could see it in her face. This wasn't about eating. It was about losing one more piece of her independence. So every day, I became her cheerleader. Look, you closed your hand a little more today. Tomorrow will be easier. I never doubted she'd get there. I just didn't know how much patience either of us had left before she did. Then, after a few days, she finally lifted the fork. Success! Well, sort of. Instead of her mouth, the fork hit her nose. We both laughed. And honestly, we needed that laugh. It took another 2 or 3 tries before the food actually made it where it was supposed to go. But that wasn't the point. The point was, she did it. Not perfectly, not gracefully, but independently. And that tiny victory felt bigger than anything we'd celebrated in weeks. The fork wasn't the only thing we worked on. Every day, I became part physical therapist, part cheerleader, part motivational speaker for an audience of 1. Finish your exercises, Mom, and I'll massage your shoulders. That became our deal. Mom loved those neck massages. Yes, they helped with the stiffness, but I think they did something even more important. They gave her something to look forward to. Because when you're bedridden, the days can start to feel very long. That's something nobody really prepares you for about being confined to a bed. Not just what it does to your body, but what it does to your spirit. Imagine needing someone to help you sit up, brush your teeth, wash your hair, help you with toileting, get dressed, even eat. You don't lose who you are, but you do lose some of your privacy, some of your dignity, and a lot of your sense of control. For someone who'd been active her entire life, I know that was a lot harder on Mom than the broken leg itself. That's why we kept doing those hand exercises. We weren't just trying to get her fingers to move. We were practicing independence. Recovery doesn't begin with the big milestones. It begins with the little things that eventually make the big milestones possible. I can't say enough good things about this hospital. Every morning, someone stopped by with tomorrow's menu. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, dessert. Mom actually had choices. And not just 1 or 2. Real choices. I never thought one of the highlights of her stay would be the hospital food. Yet, somehow, it was. I was there 3 times a day to help feed Mom while she rebuilt the strength and coordination in her arms and hands. If I happened to be running late, an aide was usually already feeding her. And I was grateful because they had 10 or 15 patients depending on the day. I had 1. They couldn't spend 5 extra minutes waiting while Mom struggled to hold a spoon. I could. And those 5 minutes became therapy. Every morning I'd stop by the nurse's station. Morning. By the 4th day, we all knew each other's names. One thing I noticed during those few weeks, and this was just my experience, I think things got taken care of a little more quickly because the staff knew I'd be back. I wasn't there to second-guess the staff. I was there to be another set of eyes and ears for Mom. Not because they weren't doing their jobs. They absolutely were. The nurses and aides and therapists were wonderful. But they were caring for a lot of patients. I was caring for 1, and I knew what normal looked like for her. If I had a question, I'd ask it. If something hadn't been followed up on, I'd follow up. If I noticed a change, I'd mention it. And I think it made a difference. Now, I know not everyone can be there every day. Life just doesn't make that possible. But if you can't, see if maybe someone else can stop by. A friend, another family member, a neighbor. Because having someone who knows your loved one, who asks questions, notices the little things, can make all the difference. Over those next few weeks, the little victories kept adding up. Little by little, every specialist gave us good news. Her lungs, her foot, the hematoma, even her oxygen. 5 liters became 3. 3 became 2. Then 1.5. Every time they turned it down, I held my breath. Because after everything we'd been through, I still wasn't used to good news. Then one afternoon, Mom asked, "Do I have to wear the BiPAP tonight?" The respiratory therapist smiled. "Do your breathing exercises today, and we'll see." Now that was motivation. Mom hated that BiPAP machine. Every deep breath suddenly had a purpose. Every breathing exercise brought her one step closer to sleeping without it. The next day, the respiratory therapist walked into Mom's room. "Let's try one night without the BiPAP." Mom looked like she'd just won the lottery. After weeks of having that machine strapped to her face, the BiPAP had officially become her least favorite roommate. And finally, it was getting kicked out. Until then, I'd been measuring progress in breathing exercises, oxygen levels, and therapy sessions. I hadn't stopped to notice what everyone else was starting to see. Around that time, Dave kept saying, "She looks so much better." Honestly, I thought he was just trying to make us feel better. Then Pam said the same thing. That's when it hit me. Caregivers don't always notice progress because we're living it one step at a time. Mom really was getting stronger. Not quickly, not dramatically, just a little every day. She still couldn't stand. She still couldn't put weight on her broken leg. She hadn't even gotten out of bed yet. But she was doing more for herself every day. And for the first time, we could see that all those tiny efforts were adding up. I'd believed she'd get there. Now, everyone else was finally seeing what I'd believed all along. We weren't just hoping Mom was finally getting better. We could actually see it. And after everything we'd been through, that felt pretty incredible. Around here, we're calling that a win. Until next time, take care of yourself too.
When your friends say cherish this time, you smile while you're losing your mind. Was it the pharmacy line or the rush hour doctor drive? So you swallow that glare with a laugh and a sigh and say, don't fret, dear, we're having the time of our lives. Oh, we're having the time of our lives. Wicked daughter.